Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon, in all his glory, was not arrayed like one of these. Joseph Wood Crutch, the great naturalist, once observed that no animal, not even the newest bunny or baby, can ever be as innocent as a flower or a tree. Crutch was simply stating a fact, and it is that all animals are predators. Man and mouse and bird must eat protein to live, and protein is found only in living things or their remains. In other words, animals eat plants and or one another, which may be the deepest meaning of original sin. Plants, on the other hand, are pure. They feed on inorganic chemicals. By a strange and wondrous process we call photosynthesis, they transform air and water and minerals into living tissue. This doesn't mean that because they lack teeth and guts that plants are shrinking violets on the scale of life. Any gardener who is tangled with an encroaching weed knows well the gut and grit that is in grasses. We must also remember that plants were on the land long before our ancestors crawled from the darkness of the sea. In fact, it is doubtful that animals alone would have succeeded in colonizing the land, for only the plants had the power to bring about the first softening of its harsh conditions. They helped to make soil of the crumbling rocks, and they held back the ground from the rains that would have washed it away. And little by little, the plants subdued and made temperate what was once a lifeless desert. For this reason, naturalists are understandably reverent in their approach to plants. Roy Bedichek once wrote, "As I look upon the tufts of this historic grass, I think of the wildlife which in its heyday it supported, but principally I think of its everlastingness under primitive conditions, of how it held the soil in place and deposited a mold that ensured next season's growth in unimpaired vitality." The plants must have first sent out their hardiest pioneer to break the sod, the lichen. An admirable organism, the lichen. It is invariably the first colonizer of desert rock or of Arctic ice. It can live where nothing else can. In fact, the manna of the Bible is believed to have been a lichen found in the Old World desert. Next came the grasses, the flowers, and the cereals and grains, and after them, the trees and the ferns. What it was, really, was an extension of the ocean's energy, a sea of grass, and by the age of the dinosaurs, 135 million years before the dawning of man, there was already much in evidence of God's good green earth. There was holly, ivy, and mountain laurel, the magnolia, the maple, beech, and of course the mighty oak. grasses are quicker and more proliferate, but it was forests such as this that provided a richer haven and quickened the evolution of birds and insects and the higher animals. We have an impression that trees are stolid, immovable characters, anchors of the earth, as it were. And this certainly is true, in the sense that they send down deep roots to fasten the soil in a way that grasses never can. But trees are also highly mobile. By the time man had stood up on his hind legs, trees had moved across the face of the earth until great virgin forests stood everywhere, except in the driest plains and deserts and the wettest swamps. This mantle of green, besides being food, was literally air for the mammals that began to march across the continent. Without plant life, there would not have been enough oxygen to fill the smallest lung. It was also an Eden for man when he came, and it probably wasn't much different from some of the deeper gardens of our own big thicket in East Texas. 3,000 years before the birth of Christ, the giant sequoias which loom on the slopes of the Sierra Nevada were tender saplings. Most trees left in their natural state will outlive men. Many of these trees in the thicket are 500 years old. The fact that man had to eat the plants is a design of nature, but the fact of man's destruction of most of the forest of the earth, without regard to conservation and future growth, is a mutation obviously not intended by nature. Nature, however, in her infinite capacity for regeneration, and with her powerful and pervading ways, will suffer slightest. It is man who will pay for his mistakes. Bertha Damon, the gardener, who is dead now and happily pushing up daisies in New Hampshire, wrote something 30 years ago that is prophetic and somehow comforting to those who love life and not man apart from life. This is what she said. Nature recognizes that the petty zeals of man are fitful and that he himself endures but a moment. She will not let him, through a whim, exterminate suitable and virtuous plants to make a place for perishable exotics, even though they be corn and beans. She is always seeing to it that when man has ceased his brief care, there shall be no more bare spaces, seeing to it that everywhere and annually weeds shall rise and flourish and bring forth seed, yielding food and healing and beauty to man, that everywhere and forever weeds shall preserve their kind, in annual seed or perennial root. These weeds get blamed for taking a little richness from the soil, but they make much more from atmosphere and light and moisture. And finally, when they die, they give back to the earth this much greater treasure than ever they have taken. Fertility may not end.